Welcome, everyone, to another installment of AFF-CNY's pre-conference interview series. I am Shaman Vizzi. Today, I'm going to be interviewing Greg Luce. This is actually the second time I've had the privilege of interviewing Greg. Last year, I had an amazing chat with him and two of his co-presenters, which you can actually see on the AFF-CNY's YouTube channel. The channel hosts all of our videos from conference material to educational trainings that AFF-CNY does throughout the year. But now let's take a look at what topic Greg will be presenting at this year's conference. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. As mentioned, today I'm going to be interviewing Greg Luce. Greg, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Why don't you introduce yourself and maybe tell us how you are connected to adoption and foster care?
Sure. My name is Gregory Luce. I'm the founder and attorney for Adoptee Rights Law Center, but I'm also the executive director of Adoptees United. I'm also a District of Columbia born and adopted person.
Why don't you do us a favor? I know we interviewed you last year and you said some things, but I'd like to repeat them because they're pretty important. What exactly is the Adoptee Rights Law Center? Why did you find it? Why did you feel that there was a need to have a center specific?
It grew out of my own personal experience and trying to get my own records out of District of Columbia, and which was a 5-year process that involved extensive court proceedings, including appealing it to the Court of Appeals and having it sent back down. But in the end, I received my original birth certificate unredacted. And from that experience, I said, this can't be the way it is across the country. And it was. I mean, when I started to look at it as an attorney, what's happening across the country for domestically born adopted people who want their records, and typically the original birth record. So from there, I decided I got to change this. This is just ridiculous. And so I founded the Adoptee Rights Law Center, provided resources and things that would provide quick information so adoptees could find out what their rights are, and then started to work on legislative issues that could change the law.
So when you were going through school and college, so you had already wanted to be an attorney and then changed your focus, or was this kind of almost simultaneous, or how did that happen?
I would say, as with many things in my life, it's sort of like I made a left turn. And so, I've been an attorney for 30 years. I did all sorts of different attorney work, including, running a nonprofit. But I was at a time in my life where I could make this sort of jump into something that's not really paid. And I typically don't charge or charge very low for clients. So I had that opportunity and I said, oh, I'll do it. And, it's been great so far, and I've learned a ton, and I think I'm providing some really valuable information. So I did not set out to be an adoptee rights lawyer. I was all sorts of other things before then, but now I am.
Okay. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, you're an executive director at Adoptees United.
Right.
What is that exactly for everyone out there to know?
So it kind of grew out of my work trying to figure out how to build a larger movement. I mean, I'm just, with Adoptee Rights Law Center, I'm just a law firm, and I represent individual clients. We needed, as a movement, something bigger that could take on issues in sort of a global or even a national level. And so we formed a nonprofit, and that's with Annette O'Connell, Shauna Hodgson's, Erica Babineau, and we've added some other people to our board since. But it's a national nonprofit, tax exempt. We hope to raise money to put on programming, which is what we're doing, but also tracking legislation and trying to change the narrative, or the dominant narrative, of adoption. And I think this is sort of the national attempt to do so.
Okay, awesome. So let's get into what you're going to speak about at the conference this year. So your title is long, so give me a second. The Unfulfilled Promise of U.S. Citizenship for Inter-Country Adoptees, What's Happening Today. Why don't you give us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about at this presentation?
Part of what I do for the law firm is I represent inter-country adoptees who do not have U.S. citizenship, even though they are adopted by U.S. citizen parents when they are children. This is something that people often don't know, and that these inter-country adoptees will struggle as adults without having either proof of citizenship or do not have citizenship altogether. And this all relates to what I call the unfulfilled promise, and that sort of is a basic promise that is in adoption is you are considered as if born to your adoptive parents, and that's a fiction, but it is a promise that you're going to be treated like any other child in a family. The U.S. doesn't do that for predominantly adult adopted people. And so there is a loophole in the law in which if you were too old when they changed the law in the year 2000 or 2001, then you did not receive or require U.S. citizenship. And so there are thousands of intercountry adoptees in the U.S. today who are even finding out this week or last week, because I still get these calls every week, that they are actually not U.S. citizens and had thought they were all along. So the loophole is to fix the loophole, to fix the broken promise, is to remove that what was essentially an age-based restriction on U.S. citizenship. If they remove that, then thousands of intercountry adoptees that are currently in the United States would acquire citizenship, and that would fix that. And so then the presentation will be about how did this happen? What does it mean for my individual clients and intercountry adoptees generally? And where are we now? And there's a bill pending in Congress, and I'll talk about the sort of the complications of that bill and what people may be able to do to get essentially to get the senators behind the bill.
I know that we have a theme of our conference this year, and we ask you when you're filling out these RFPs, your intended audience. I feel as though I understand that this might be geared to people who might be specifically trying to adopt or considering adopting a child or someone from outside the country. But I feel it's kind of something that everyone would benefit from. Why do you feel that this kind of thing, information could kind of benefit anybody, even if they weren't trying to adopt outside of the country?
It's a great question. And think about it this way. My clients, intercountry adoptees who do not have U.S. citizenship, they can't vote. They are not considered constituents because they do not have citizenship. So they must rely upon people who vote, who have senators and representatives, to advocate on their behalf. I mean, it is a very strong intercountry adoptee community that is rallying on this bill, but they need help from people who aren't involved in adoption, who understand the issue, who can pressure their representatives to do the right thing. So it is for everybody, because it's an absurd loophole in the law that has really wrecked a number of adoptees' lives. Some have been deported to countries that they never knew, or some live under what they feel could be deportation. So we need to fix it, and it's going to take people far beyond the adoptee community or the adoption community to fix it.
All right, so why don't you tell everybody out there why they need to come and see you this year speak at the conference? Give a little plug for yourself.
It'll be interesting. I always have charts to break it all down. I'm teased for all the charts that I usually use, but they've been really effective in kind of breaking down complicated issues. I'm not shy to make jokes and laugh and make it entertaining at the same time. So it'll be really informative, and you should come away with some pretty good knowledge about what the problem is and what you can do about it.